Hi, folks. This is Daniel Meeks, and I will be reading excerpt number 7 from the book First Sight by author Chun Jing Yuan. "What are the Sigrunta like?" Ralia asked me as she brushed my hair. She had been in the countryside, mourning a dead relative the previous night, and had missed the banquet. "The men or the women?" I asked, as I looked at us both in the mirror. "Both," Ralia said, looking curiously back at me. "Well, the men look strong, well-muscled, but with everything the right size. You know, not behemoth-sized muscles," I said. "Were they handsome?" Ralia asked, smiling. I thought about it. There was a bluntness to Sigrunta features compared to the other natives of the Serpent Coast and the Homats, but they were harmonious and pleasing to the eye. "You could say that," I told her. "And the women?" Ralia asked. "Fertile-looking," I said. Ralia laughed. "That's how you describe them. Fertile. Like they're cows." I grinned. "I meant that they're very well proportioned and pretty." We giggled. A voice came in through the door. "Your Highness?" "Enter," I said. One of my attendants stepped into the chamber. "The king requests your presence at breakfast. He is dining with the prince and the chief of the Sigrunta and his son," the girl said. "Not now," Isatra telepathed. I feigned a weakened voice. "Tell my father I send my deepest apologies," I told the girl. "But I am unwell and cannot serve as hostess this morning." The girl looked concerned. "Yes, of course, Princess. Shall I fetch the physician?" "There'll be no need," I replied with a tired expression. "Just some rest." "Yes, Princess. Shall I just get a tonic from him, then? Something to strengthen the body?" the girl suggested. "That would be nice," I said weakly. "Thank you." The poor girl left the room in haste. I looked at Ralia and we burst into laughter. "I wonder what the goddess has in mind," Ralia said. Ralia serves the goddess, as I do, and she had heard her instruction too. "It looks like I'll be spending the day in my chambers," I said, sulking. I had looked forward to visiting the marketplace with Ralia and meeting the young officer she had been seeing. "I'll bring you something special, something a sick woman should certainly not be eating," Ralia promised. We laughed again. Ralia. I left the palace to meet Musin in the marketplace 2 hours before noon. He had been out at sea with the fleet for a week, returning only last night. We had met some weeks ago at Lady Haluna's villa. He was charming, polite, and really quite easy on the eyes. He had sought my parents' permission to see me shortly after. My initial plan for the day had been to surprise him with a meeting with the princess, but the goddess had intervened, and in my experience, one ignores her bidding at their peril. I got off the sedan and walked into the street. He was early and looking quite sharp. We smiled at each other. "I thought you had someone for me to meet," he said, taking my hand. "I did," I said, "but she was taken ill in the morning." "I do hope it's nothing serious," Musin said. "She'll be fine with a bit of rest," I assured him. We strolled about leisurely, catching up on our time apart. He had visited a few islands to the east. I should like to take you around them with me one day. The villagers were so simple, and their hospitality most gracious," Musin said. "How has work been at the temple?" "It's been fun, as usual," I said. I told him about a few of the problems the people had come with, and some of the sessions that I had overseen. People always have interesting visions during those. Then something occurred to me. "Did you meet many women in those villages?" Musin grinned mischievously. "Why? Does it trouble you?" "Not really. No," I replied superciliously. Musin laughed. He led me towards a turn. That's when I saw him, frowning fiercely as he looked in my general direction. He was about my height. His red hair fell past his shoulders around an oval face. His eyes were small and blue. His chin and nose were blunt. My heart went faster. Then I saw his eyes catch me. For a moment I felt like I was on trial. I certainly was tense enough. Then he looked away. I watched as he crossed us. It took a little time for my nerves to settle. The rest of the afternoon passed without event. I took the sedan back to the palace to spend the evening with the princess. I walked in on her, Kara, and Hairu, nestled in soft blankets and cushions on the floor. I was pressed for details on my outing. Then the conversation turned to the banquet I had missed the previous night. "I must say, I envy Lady Haluna a little," Hairu said, with a little bit of whist. "Why so?" the princess asked. "The Sigrunta delegation are living in her home," Hairu replied. "Yes, I never did see you speak with them, princess," Kara added. "I never got the chance to," Ifritar said. However, I got the sense that she had plenty of opportunity to do so, but had refused it all. "That's a shame," Kara said. "He was such a gentleman." "Which one?" Ifritar asked. "The son of the chief," Kara said. "Selu." "And which one was he?" Ifritar pressed. "The one with the long red hair," Kara answered. "Blue eyes." That description conjured an image in my head. I paid closer attention to what Kara was saying. "I hear that they'll be here for a few more days," Hairu said, looking a little deflated. "Then they'll sail back for some festival of summer and send a fresh delegation to stay after that." I recalled what the man in the morning had worn. His clothes had been foreign. His arms were covered. In fact, the only parts of his body that were visible had been his face, neck, and hands. But I had gotten a sense of his build, and it fit the princess's earlier description of the Sigrunta. Well-muscled, but with everything the right size. There was just one thing, I thought. This Selu was supposed to be a gentleman. The guy had seemed a little fierce. There was some more talk before we decided to send for some wine. "Ulari," Ifritar called out, summoning the waiting girl for the night. There was no answer. Ifritar called again. "I'll have a look," I said, getting up and making for the door. I opened it to find the servant on her feet, but asleep. I sighed. The others came closer. I shared a look with them. The palace rules held that we were to rouse her and beat her, then send her for the wine. The prospect appealed to none of us. "I'll go," I said, garnering a grateful smile from the princess. I had rarely ever seen Ifritar beat her slaves. She would claim coldly that it was a waste of the strength in her arms, but anyone who looked closely could tell that the real reason was compassion. I smiled back at my princess and left her chambers. The palace was an eerie place at night, eerie and beautiful. Maybe because of the combination of moon, torch, and candlelight washing over its huge, finely furnished halls and corridors. Wanting a short trip, I walked briskly. I stopped abruptly when I heard voices around a corner. "But you see how this looks to a woman," a silky female voice said, "that your proposal comes so quickly after Lord Imotar's." The voice belonged to Lady Onara, daughter of the Grand Vizier, a woman of great beauty. Lord Imotar was the son of one of the fleet commanders. I quietly pressed myself against the wall. "I see that I have him to thank for spurring me to my senses," Marutep's voice reached me. "And that is how you should see it." Yonara let out a tinkling laugh. "Very well, my prince. Your proposal has been noted and will be considered." "I know you, Yonara. You're just like me. Marry Imotar, and what will you be? What could you be? The wife of some admiral, if Imotar rises high enough. Always just a noble lady. But I can make you queen of this nation." I felt lust erupt in Yonara's energy centers. If I knew her at all, she would conceal her excitement well. "I will heed your words, my prince." Several seconds passed, and I sensed one of the pair sweeping in my direction. My eyes widened, and I pushed myself off the wall into the middle of the corridor just in time to be confronted by Yonara's appearance. She looked upon me with contempt. Did she know that I had heard? "Lady Onara," I greeted her, bowing quickly. After I had raised my head, she watched me for a moment before turning away and stalking off. I quickly continued on my way, breathing out in relief when I was sure I could not be heard. So, Yonara and Marutep. The Grand Vizier was one of the most powerful men in the kingdom. This could not mean anything good for our side. The princess must be told. I hastened to the kitchens. Well, that was excerpt number 7. So if you want to know more, you'll have to get the book on Amazon. And the sequel, Betrayal, is now out, so the links are down below. If you want more information, you can go to Formlessness, the YouTube channel. Thank you for watching.